Oh, I thought it was fantastic, especially knowing the science that I know of when life begins, that it is time that this be discussed not only amongst the general public, which is what our organization does, trying to shift public opinion, but that efforts be made to shift public policy by just even raising the debate politically to get people thinking, yeah, do we have things right, or could we have them wrong? Well, what's the evidence? Let's examine the evidence. So, not what are our feelings, what are our emotional ties to abortion, but rather what are the cold, hard facts. So I think it's brilliant that that's happening, and I know if they take an honest look that the conclusion will be that life begins at fertilization. The term human is a scientific term. It's something that we can determine objectively. What are your parents? Then you're of that same species. And are you growing? Then you're alive. And so we know by having human parents, the preborn are of the same species, that at fertilization, when that one cell, multiplies from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 and so on, by virtue of that, it's growth, it's therefore alive. The question of person, however, is a legal term. It's a philosophical term. And what we often point out in our presentations is it had a changing definition throughout history. In Canada, I was once considered not a person. Women were not persons under the law. In Nazi Germany, Jews were classified as non-persons. The United States, blacks as non-persons. So we see person is kind of a tool that can be used by those more powerful in society to deprive actual humans of their fundamental right to live. So we would argue that the only reasonable definition for person is that you are a human. Any other definition, human plus a specific sex or human plus, in the case of the preborn, being a specific age, would be discrimination. As we have studied the movement, both the pro-life movement and the pro-abortion movement, as well as just social change, generally speaking, it's become clear that to shift public policy, you need to shift public opinion. And I think it's been difficult to see a public policy change, and there hasn't really been one, because public opinion has not shifted. For the most part, Canadians support abortion. A majority do not support abortion in how it currently stands with the status quo of all 9 months of pregnancy, you're not protected under the law until you're born. About 70% do not support the current status on abortion, but about 70% do support abortion in the first 3 months of pregnancy. And that's a problem because about 85 to 90% of abortions happen in the first 3 months of pregnancy. So I think until we shift public opinion, we're not going to see much of a shift in public policy. Yeah, it's a good question. I honestly don't know. I mean, certainly the talking points that Stephen Harper has been using for years now, really, are not in favor of opening the debate, are not in favor of the pro-life perspective, which obviously causes me concern and I find troubling. I like to be hopeful that Woodworth will have success with this motion, but it's really one of those things where time will tell. We as a society don't believe that people should be allowed to do whatever they want with their bodies if what they're doing is harming someone else's body. So my right to, for example, swing my arm stops when I hit someone else in the nose. And so when a woman has an abortion, what we're dealing with is someone else's body, namely the preborn child, because a woman who's not pregnant doesn't have an abortion. So what is different between a woman who's pregnant and a woman who's not pregnant? Someone else is there, the preborn child. That's why she's going to the abortion clinic. Therefore, if we truly believe in bodily rights, then we have to look at the bodily rights of the preborn child, who have right to their bodily integrity and that it not be dismembered. I think another thought that comes to mind is the rhetoric of choice, which is why we call our project's choice chain or the reproductive choice campaign, to redefine what choice is, because to say, I believe in a woman's right to choose is actually grammatically incorrect. It's an incomplete sentence. It's like me saying I believe in a woman's right to take. And if I said that, someone would say, take what? Which is a brilliant question. And so if someone says I believe in a woman's right to choose or I'm pro-choice, it would be, well, the right to choose what or pro-choice about what? And then if we define our terms, look at what abortion is, then really the only kind of reconciliation that can happen here is for those who support the killing of preborn children to come to the realization that as much as women need support and help, that killing their offspring isn't the solution to the difficult crises women face. Well, lots of wrong actions are criminalized that people do, and we don't change the law. If a man hurts himself while beating his wife, We don't legalize spousal abuse and give him boxing gloves to protect his hand. And those who support abortion generally are outraged by that kind of an analogy. And I say it is outrageous and wrong if the preborn aren't human. But if they are human, then what the abortion advocate is proposing is that we legalize the killing of humans to make it safer for those participating in the killing. And that's just not rational. So what even that comes down to is, are the preborn human, does abortion kill? And if it does, I think we also have to ask what drives a woman to abort, particularly when it's illegal, to take those risks if there's the risk that it could hurt her. As I have talked to abortion advocates, they will even tell me, no woman likes abortion, and women don't wake up saying, yay, this is my rite of passage. It's often poverty that drives a woman to abort, or lack of support. And then my response is to say, well, if that's true, then the most pro-woman thing we can do is alleviate her poverty, not eliminate her child. That if she's truly not choosing abortion, then giving her a legal abortion isn't going to make a poor woman rich, it's not going to unrape the rape victim, and it's not going to turn the frog of a boyfriend into a prince. So what we need to do is facilitate care for women, and abortion isn't care. The debate rises and falls on the question of when life begins. And in my experience, abortion advocates want to talk about everything but when life begins, because if you ask that question and answer it honestly, you have to, if you're honest, intellectually honest, you have to come to the conclusion that abortion kills and it's wrong. So they will talk about illegal abortion, rape, the woman's circumstances, but no one disputes the crisis exists. What we're disputing is, can we kill in crisis?